Well, I'm so honored to be here with you today. I've always been wanting to know this question. So why Indus Biotech? You're an engineer by trade. You went to one of the most prestigious engineering schools in India. What happened from engineering to starting a company like Indus Biotech?
David, is a very interesting question. Not very often I get this question. And I'm also equally honored to be with you today.
Thank you.
I started work in 1977. I joined a company called Unilever after my training in IIT, getting an engineering degree. That's an era of entrepreneurship in US. You read the Fortune or Forbes, there are stories about Steve Jobs, Microsoft, all those people. That's a very exciting thing for youngsters in India. So I always wanted to become an entrepreneur. I didn't want to work for anybody. That's number one. And number two, in levers, though I trained as an engineer, I went into some new areas of learning. I started learning about edible fats, milk protein. So I said that there are a lot of opportunity in these areas because they are hardly explored and the science is not unraveled. So I felt that I should become an entrepreneur, and I walked out of the job after about 11 years of work.
Wow. But all right, so you wanted to be an entrepreneur, but what was the foundation of what is now or what has become Indus Biotech?
So basically, foundations, one is that got that bug to become an entrepreneur. That's number one. And number two, that time I was very fascinated by life sciences. Though I am by training an engineer, I said life science is the area for future, sunrise opportunity. So I happened to go for a lecture by a Nobel laureate who had won Nobel Prize for elucidating the structure of a protein in the human body.
Oh, wow.
So he said there are tens and thousands of this in the body, and we just started the beginning of elucidating one. There are more to be done. Then he said, why we require the structure? He said, if you know the structure, then you can find out ligands for that, and if they bind to these proteins, you can activate or shut it down. So you can manipulate the physiology. I said, wow, that's an area to be in, and because that's what his life science is about. Right. The drug companies are exploiting it, but I didn't want to go into drug area because drug area you get in only after somebody becomes dysfunctional, sick, so to speak. I said, can you eliminate drug companies? That is not possible. But can you delay their arrival in a person's life? I said, yes, it's possible. So that's how I started looking at life sciences and started looking at nutraceuticals.
That's awesome. Great story. I'm glad you made the shift. Although you're putting people like me, a pharmacist, out of business.
But if you really look at it, in the drug today, the drug companies are huge, and I would say that their investments have unraveled a lot of science behind the human physiology. I mean, we are thankful to them. But one thing is about drug is that when a drug starts coming in, you are in the bed. They are not active. You have a kidney failure, you have a liver failure, or getting to be a failure situation, you start drugs.
Right.
So why not delay these things so that you're active? And also by 1980, we had seen life expectancy increasing among Western people and even in India. But life expectancy, people live up to 80, 85. The famous American president Reagan. Mm-hmm. He lived long, but he didn't have memory.
Right.
I've heard about stories about that. So how do we preserve his memory? Or preserve, for that matter, anybody's memory, health. So we said there's an opportunity for preservation of health and wellness, particularly in the era when we are extending lifespan. So our goal is to extend health span while the lifespan is extended by drug companies.
Right. Well, thank you for starting Indus Biotech and actually seeing the future the way you did, 40 plus years ago.
Yeah, this is 96 I started.
Oh, 96, okay.
96, yeah 96.
Amazing.
It's, you can say, about 29 years now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. So you gave me the lowdown on how you started Indus Biotech and the why. I'm really curious about why fenugreek. Like, this has been one of the questions that's almost troubled me because, like, it's not often a botanical that I think people think about for health and well-being. So where did this whole fenugreek idea come from?
It's a very, very interesting question, David, And when, the mission we started with is basically how to extend the health span while the lifespan is going up all over the world, particularly in the Western world. Then we said that if you want to extend the lifespan and also the health span, you have to take products to make sure that the physiology is well controlled, and it has to be done on a daily basis. So anything which has to be taken chronically for a long term, it has to be safe. Otherwise, you get accumulated toxicity. So one thing we realized early in life was that if you go after any of the herbs, particularly from the Indian traditional medicine, Ayurveda, or traditional Chinese medicine, these herbs, molecules are there, they may not be very safe for long-term use. Whereas food, if you turn to food, food is used by people, civilizations for long-term, and they eat ample quantity, 100 grams, 200 grams daily. And we have not heard anybody dying of breast cancer or colon cancer after eating a particular food. So obviously the food is safe. And if you pull out a molecule from food which has got physiological activity to target a protein in our body, then obviously it will do the job without causing any toxicity. So toxicity was the driving factor to decide on fenugreek. That is, go for a food article, because fenugreek is a staple in India, in many parts of India. Okay, why fenugreek? There's one more reason. So when we started looking at life extension happening in Western world, we found that age onset diseases like diabetes is an age onset disease. Autoimmune diseases, you don't have autoimmune disease in young population. It happens after the age of 40, 50, 60, whatever. So we said age onset diseases mostly are blood sugar, that is metabolic disorders, or immunity going awry. Okay. Then I started looking at which are the food materials which were used as medicine in the past. Fenugreek has got a fantastic, prior art.
So this is kind of like a marriage of what people consumed and what was part of Ayurveda in this case? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
So it has got a good prior art. And if you look at India, it is used for blood sugar management. If you look at Middle East, fenugreek is also grown in Turkey, Iraq, Morocco. There people use it for fever and inflammation. Two different uses. So obviously what is in fenugreek which is helping with blood sugar is not what is helping with fever. Something else is there. So it became a very curious scientific question for us to figure out what are these molecules which are doing distinctly different physiological actions.
Wow.
So we felt that fenugreek is a good starting material for us, and we started with fenugreek. And when we started with fenugreek, we went and sampled 18 different types of fenugreeks, and we found out that the secondary metabolites in fenugreek are very rich in alkaloids, steroidal moieties, molecules, flavonoids, and this is very fantastic.
Yeah, those are all of I like to say Mother Nature's healing compounds, we'll call them, right?
That's the right way.
Yeah.
Mother Nature has produced healing compounds, and we ingest it through food.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's everything you said makes so much logic, and there's the old saying, let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food, and you've just taken that to a whole other level with Indus Biotech. So thank you for that answer.
So I don't know whether I have cleared, it is very satisfactory in terms of understanding why we went for fenugreek.
I think so, but I mean, if you have more to add, please do. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's different layers to an onion, different layers to a seed.
Exactly.
I feel like there's different
Yeah.
layers to
You
this
keep
fenugreek
peeling.
story. So
You keep
why don't you
peeling,
peel
yeah.
back another layer for me then?
Yeah, okay. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go ahead with the next question.
All right.
Yeah.
So I think we know that Indus Biotech is probably very synonymous with fenugreek. Are there any other plants that you're working with?
Yeah. So we have worked on fenugreek, and we have done a fair amount of comprehensive work. And we have close to 100 patents on fenugreek. We have also worked on cinnamon.
Oh,
Cinnamon is used in many food items like coffee, for example, in Western world. In India, it's a spice added to many of our food items. We have worked on cinnamon, and cinnamon has got very interesting molecules. We call it as polyphenols. Monomers, dimers, trimers of a particular building block, and all these polyphenols. There's a particular type called type A polyphenol. It's different from the type B and type C. They're extremely physiologically active once you ingest it. So we worked on cinnamon, and we have also worked on another food material, vegetable material. It's known as Centella asiatica or gotu kola.
oh yeah.
Yeah, gotu kola. So people grow gotu kola and make vegetable out of that as part of, for example, if you go to Sri Lanka, Malaysia, parts of India, it's a vegetable.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it
Wow.
is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it fits into your food. Needs to be. Yeah.
Yes.
This is great.
So we have worked on these three, and fenugreek is the one which we have brought it out to the marketplace. Now we are bringing slowly cinnamon and Centella asiatica, because the science we do is we do science from the base level study of computational binding of these molecules on the proteins. After that, we do cell level study. After that, we go and do pharmacological studies in animals, small animals, then toxicology, then thereafter human clinical. So it takes quite a bit of time and investment of money.
So along the lines of fenugreek that we've talked about in a previous segment, where it was part of the food, it was part of Ayurveda, so you knew of traditional uses over thousands of years. Would that be the same thing then with the gotu kola and the cinnamon as well?
Yes. So we always rely on the prior art. As you rightly said, it's well known for certain things for thousands of years. So we target that particular activity, but when it is well known, people use whole cinnamon or whole gotu kola. But in our case, what we try to do is we try to look for which are the target molecules which can deliver this activity and purify that, and we are able to get 300 milligrams or 500 milligrams of those molecules. Take it daily. It protects you and preserves your health and wellness.
So I'm going to tell people a little secret. Before we tape this, I asked you the question of why not the whole, I asked you about fenugreek, like why not the whole seed? So because of what you just said, I'll ask the question again because people weren't sitting there with us in the conference room. But my question was, if there's all these potential, or not potential, there's all these realistic benefits from fenugreek or gotu kola or cinnamon, because they all have these compounds, and you're able to figure out maybe which extraction gives the final extract maybe more of an effect on blood sugar, or more of an effect on inflammation, or more whatever that might be. Why not just use the whole seed and then get all the benefits? And the answer is, go ahead now. Tell me what you told me earlier in the conference room. Why don't I want to just use the seed?
David, sorry.
It's all good. I've been called a lot of things.
Yeah. So what happens is, if you want to get the flavonoids which are responsible for many of the actions of fenugreek seed, you need to eat something like 50 grams of that to get the threshold amount of flavonoid to give you this EC50, which we have found scientifically. So 50 grams of fenugreek is tough to eat. It's very bitter, taste-wise. So we have simplified it, put into a tablet or capsule, 300 milligrams or 500 milligrams. You can take that enriched flavonoid fraction. It delivers you that benefit.
I love the word. I'm going to try to remember this. Enriched flavonoid.
Yeah, enriched flavonoid.
That's great. Thank you for answering that. I appreciate it. Okay, so one of the things that, again, you've educated me on is the difference between food chain biomass, I think is the term you use, versus botanical. And for me, as the herbal pharmacist or herbal pharmacist, depending on what part of the world people are living in, for me, it's always been about botanicals. But your philosophy on this food chain biomass, I'd like you to explain it to people. Like, what's the difference?
It's a very significant question because when you talk about botanicals, so if you look at traditional Indian system of medicine, Ayurveda, medicine is given when you fall sick. So it's not forever. You take it for a limited period of time under the supervision of a Ayurvedic doctor. Okay. So botanicals belong to traditional Indian system of medicine. So if I purify and make a molecule out of that, it becomes a drug. It is not a nutraceutical. Whereas if I take food, people are taking food every day and quite large quantities of that. I've simplified that. I removed the bitterness. I've taken flavonoids from food. So this can be taken every day and it will not cause any toxicity. Of course, we have done special toxicity studies after we have extracted and purified this material, and we found that they are not toxic. So if it is a food chain raw material, and most of these things are 21 CFR compliant as per US. So an extract of that, which is a part of that, it becomes a nutraceutical. It's not a botanical.
It makes sense. Going back to my pharmacy school days, we learned that 40 to 50% of the medicines that we have today
come from botanicals.
They pull a chemical out of the plant basically, and that's what we have as it, or they figure out how to synthesize that chemical. Either way, so safety is really the bottom line of this whole thing.
And also, I'll tell you, I was guided by some knowledge I had at that point in time. For example, as you rightly said, 70% of the molecules the drug companies are developing are derived from botanicals. Starting with metformin. It has come from
exactly.
Yeah. So there is a German company called Hext, which was researching natural products from the 60s and 70s. So they turned to Indian Ayurveda, Indian traditional medicine, and they were looking at some of these traditional medicines and trying to identify the molecules. So there is one botanical which is very famous in India, which is used for blood pressure in traditional Indian medicine. It's called Ruvalfia serpentina. Okay, so Hext worked on it. They pulled out a molecule from that.
Oh, the alkaloid, right?
Alkaloid,
yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
So they tried to give it for blood pressure, and when they did a trial, they found out that it was toxic.
Right, very toxic.
It was toxic.
Yeah.
So that particular project didn't continue beyond that. So I realized that a botanical could turn out to be a toxic thing, and we cannot take it perennially. Whereas our products can be had every day like food.
All right, so this is where I'm going to be the reverse advocate on this one. A lot of people watching this might say, well, wait a minute. If you're using a food that's a plant, that's a botanical, what's the difference? Like, how do you define the difference? I guess the difference is, one is you're only taking periodically when you have an illness, right? And the other is it was part of your regular everyday diet anyway. We just figured a way to make it a nutraceutical. Would that be the right way to describe it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know that a lot of people are watching this going, all right, the herbal pharmacist, he's a botanical guy. Like, this is contradicting what he does, and it's really not. It's just like some things are for acute use.
Something is for chronic.
Yeah.
And if it's derived from a food chain and there's a good history of use, then it can be taken for a long time.
All right, great. Well, thanks for clearing that up for me. I appreciate it. It's awesome information.
Welcome.
All right, so you've given me the how did Indus Biotech start. Now I want to kind of look at you and say, if you had a crystal ball, what do you see the future for Indus Biotech?
Very challenging question, but interesting.
Especially since I don't see a crystal ball on your lap.
I don't know. So, as I explained earlier, like why I came into this field after having trained as an engineer. One is I see a huge opportunity in life sciences for preservation of health and wellness, because we are seeing extension of lifespan happening with respect to modern medicines and modern diagnostic methods, etc. People are living longer. So can we make them more active and healthy during this time? So that is my mission. And I believe that to do that, the necessary ingredients are there in our food, but we don't eat a balanced food.
Right.
So we probably are relying more on the ultra processed food where it is high in energy but less in nutrition. So we are trying to fill the gap by getting flavonoids, triterpenes, polyphenols, and all these kinds of molecules from food chain, so that they take care of certain functions in our body and our health span gets increased. So we will operate in a big way as a company in future, the men's health segment, where we want to make sure that the men are healthy, their hormonal balance is maintained for a longer time, so that even at the age of 80, like Robert De Niro, they can get a kid. Increase the
I don't
health
want
span.
one. Not another.
So that is one thing.
Yeah, okay.
Then we are looking at one thing is that when you become older, like 70s, 80s, mobility is very important. So you need to have strength. You need to have good skeletal muscles. So we want to preserve the skeletal muscles and stop the wasting of that. So there's an opportunity to improve mobility and strength of people. So we are getting products from these food chain raw materials which can take care of that. We are also looking at the brain health, where memory can be extended, avoid onset of dementia. So the brain aging is delayed. So that is a third part of it. And similar thing is reflected in women's health. Because of the hormonal difference, we have specific products for women's health also. And one fundamental issue where we just finished animal study is that if you look at women's health, one organ ages faster in women, that is ovary. It's almost dead by the age of 52. But these women live up to 85, 90, 95. So is there any way we can extend the benefits of ovarian health so that they don't fall sick? So we are working on it, and we are very, very close to launching products for women's health on fertility and extending the life of ovarian health, those kind of segments. And we are also working on gut health, because what happens is we have 24,000 genes, whereas you have 1 million genes in your stomach. And the products of this genetic material is influencing our life, metabolites and things like that. So we are very closely studying the stomach and how we can control the gut health by giving the right kind of fibers. So we are working on devising good fibers. We have already got a fiber from fenugreek, which is galactose and mannose. And galactose is very significant because if you look at a baby, the first 2 years the baby gets mother's milk. It is lactose, and lactose derived proteins. Lactose is galactose and glucose. So galactose is what is fed to the baby, and we are providing galactose derived from the fenugreek seed. So we are looking at gut health in a big way. So we believe that we can extend the lifespan, not only lifespan, the health span of most of the people as we go along, and we see a huge future making safe and efficacious products for these segments.
Yeah, I mean, it all boils down to, from what I'm hearing you say, is you just want to help people sustain a higher level of quality of life.
Exactly. That's the word I should be using.
Yeah.
Quality of life. How do you sustain your quality of life so that you're not dependent on others?
Right.
You can look after yourself. You have independence.
Well, I just turned 61, and for me, I tell my friends, like, I plan to live a long time, but at the same time, I want to maintain the quality of life I have. I want to have my mobility. I don't want to lose my mobility. So what does that mean? It's what you just said. My muscle health is probably the key to that. So it's fascinating that your mission involved.
So David, I'm 71, and all the products I make, I eat, and I believe they're doing good for me.
Well, obviously they are, because you don't look close to 71, and I'm feeling bad about myself now. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And thank you for having me in this conversation.